Hello, folks, and welcome back to All Things Neurodivergence. Welcome to 2026. I know it's a couple weeks late, but just had some stuff going on, so that's why we're back today. Today I want to talk about something called being inconsistently consistent, especially because it's New Year's and it's a couple weeks in, and most people have probably broken their New Year's resolutions. So that's kind of why I want to talk about it. So come New Year, we often have a lot of pressure to, try and better yourself or fix yourself. So we create New Year's resolutions, right? All the best intentions, but let's be honest, kind of hard to stick to. Usually you're good for a week or two, sometimes maybe even 3 or 4, but typically by February, the New Year's resolutions have just gone away. And the thing is that resolutions, often assume kind of like stable energy and motivation. And, that motivation, that energy, again, for the first few weeks, totally makes sense. But then life happens. Things get involved. We get sick. We get busy. We're dealing with kids, parents, friends, just life in general. And most of us don't really have kind of that consistent output of energy, let alone if you're neurodivergent. So we really kind of feel that fluctuation, kind of even more than neurotypical people do. And honestly, maybe the issue isn't commitment. Maybe it's, or often is, unrealistic expectations, right? It's, new year, new me. And it's not new year, same me. It doesn't mean that I can't change things. But it also doesn't mean that I have to become a whole new person, right? So what does being inconsistently consistent mean? Well, first, it means you're not giving up. That's not what this is. It's expecting fluctuations. It's planning to return instead of staying perfect. It's if I stumble, if I fall, I'm going to get back up. If I am like, hey, I'm going to eat healthy, whatever that means, or I'm going to eat kind of more nutritionally dense foods. It's not being like, oh, so I'm only going to do like just really super kind of like what called like clean eating or healthy food, which is not really realistic or even what that means. But it's I ate chips or pop or cake or junk food. Well, then I guess there's no point in just doing anything. So it's it's really trying to kind of do like the 80-20 rule, right? um, so it's intention without punishment. It's understanding that I can do something, and if I am not following it as much as I had hoped to, that's okay, right? It's how can I get back to it? And it's not waiting until a new year or until Monday or until whatever arbitrary kind of like beginning we set. So for myself, I was working out, doing pretty well. We got sick, stuff happened, so I didn't work out for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then I started again just before the new year. And so, as we know, the new year started, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday. I have to check, but for me, I actually started that Monday. So I think it was like the December 29th, 30th. And I just kind of started to follow my routine instead of being like, oh, I have to wait until the first, or I have to wait until like the week after. And so one of the things, so I was, working out fairly consistently because my workout consists of usually 4 resistance workouts a week plus 2 boxing workouts. So usually 6 in total. And it was last week or maybe the week before, just got super busy, just a ton of stuff going on. And I worked out twice. Now, one of my kind of rules for myself around kind of being, inconsistently consistent is if I'm going to miss a workout, I can only miss 2 days in a row. So I worked out on the Monday. I didn't work out on the Tuesday. I didn't work out on the Wednesday. I was like, I have to do a workout on the Thursday. And, it doesn't have to be, following the schedule, the routine that I had. It can be if I just want to hop back in, or it could be doing something different. It doesn't necessarily have to be a workout per se. It could just be, I'm going to go for a walk, right? Or I'm going to do a bit of shadow boxing, or I'm going to do some stretching. Is it what I would have done normally? No. But it's still working out. It's still something to get me up and get me moving. And the reason I did that is because I've noticed for myself that if I go more than 2 days without doing a workout, it gets exponentially harder to get back into it. My brain just goes, well, there's no point. And so I've kind of made it a bit of a non-negotiable for me that I can't go more than 2 days without working out. So I worked out on the Thursday. I didn't work out on the Friday or the Saturday, and I worked out again on the Sunday. And then I was able to get back into kind of the swing of things the following Monday. And the reason I say that is because it's about understanding that it's not about perfection, right? Sometimes I'm really good with doing my workouts. Sometimes I'm fantastic. And other times I am not. I love it when I'm able to get up and work out in the morning, and I'm able to get up early enough that I do it. Some mornings I wake up and I get my workout done, but I am pushing it, and it makes my morning a little bit stressful in terms of getting the kid ready, getting her off to school, getting myself fed, the cats, getting to work on time. Sometimes I'm not able to do it, and so I'm able to do it maybe a little bit later in the day. Sometimes not. Right. So if you can't kind of do it at the same time, same place every day, where can you do it? What does that look like? Right. Another one is eating. I very much struggle with binge eating especially when it comes to nighttime, when it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock, I start to eat the house. And I'm not even hungry most of the time. I'm looking for dopamine. I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed, I'm just looking for energy. I'm very much an emotional eater. So when I'm under a lot of stress or very upset, kind of one of my go-tos is food. And sometimes I get off track and I will eat more than I want on a regular basis. And so I will start doing some calorie counting. I have an app that I use, and it's not for the purposes of like trying to be perfect, but it's more in terms of like me trying to kind of get back in touch with my body and my kind of hunger cues, and just be mindful of what and how much I'm putting in my body. And again, I only do it for a week, maybe two. I think the longest stretch I ever went where I was consistent with putting in my tracking for food was about 5 weeks, which was like massive. So it's really about understanding that I'm not going to be able to do it every day, or even necessarily most days, but it's about kind of just coming back, right? It's understanding that progress isn't linear. It doesn't just go, or even necessarily like this, right? It's going to go up and down. There's going to be plateaus, there's going to be some regression. Starts and stops are kind of just a part of change, right? And one of the things that people often don't think about is shame kills momentum, kills it. If you stop doing something and you start to beat yourself up about it, you're like, oh, I'm so lazy, or I'm so stupid, or I can't stick to anything. What's wrong with me? Which is so common in ADHD. You create a shame spiral, and it just becomes that much harder to get out of it and to do anything, let alone do something consistently, right? So what does build momentum and what helps with momentum is safety, is feeling that you can talk to yourself in a really positive, supportive, uplifting way. You can say, hey, this week or this particular moment wasn't great, but I'm not going to allow this to define everything. That's okay, right? What can I learn from this? How can I move forward? What does that look like? So really just trying to kind of move away from the shame deficit based and more to the safety, validating, empowerment, right? Not just from the people around us, although they definitely matter too, but also for ourselves, right? Because how we talk to ourselves matters. How we think to ourselves matters. So it's trying to be kinder to yourself. And part of being kinder to yourself is recognizing that when you speak to yourself this way, you're not helping, you're actually harming. So, part of this is also having a more realistic way to approach change, right? So, not trying to make it so goal oriented. So, instead of being like, oh, I want to lose X amount of weight, I mean, don't get me wrong, that would be lovely. But, am I in less pain? Am I able to do my clothes fit a little bit better? Right? Am I realizing that I'm able to be able to be more consistent with my brushing than I was before? Right? So it's like really trying to attach not goals that are like that are metric based, but rather more around are these long term. I'm not trying. It's not a project. I'm not trying to get to the end, because especially with the stuff that we're talking about, there really isn't an endpoint. This is just stuff that has to be done kind of continuously, and that's really hard, especially with ADHD. We tend to do very very well when something is project based, beginning, middle, end, and eating well. 80-20, working out consistently, doing stretching, you know, taking care of our hygiene, checking in with friends and family, and kind of developing and nurturing those relationships. These are ongoing things. There is no really middle or end. I mean, there's definitely a beginning, but and that's really hard for a lot of neurodivergent brains to do, because it's not something that we really kind of comes naturally to us. Um, or you are somebody who is autistic, and you're very good at routines and and schedules and and sticking to things. But even within that, it's like, how can you be inconsistently consistent? Because life is not rigid. There's things happen, things come up, and so you have a plan. You have a routine that you follow, and something happens that disrupts that, and you're not able to do the things. A lot of times when you're autistic, that really throws you off, and you really struggle to get back into it, or you get completely dysregulated. And it, again, completely understandable. I mean, I've definitely been there. Um, but it's also about understanding, like, yeah, you've been dysregulated and you've been kind of been discombobulated. How can you get back, right, into kind of that consistency, right? What does that look like? It's understanding that things are going to come along, they're going to interrupt it. Um, that's okay, right? So another one is, another way to kind of look at things around kind of inconsistent consistency is, what I call non-negotiables. So as a therapist, as a business owner, I can create my own schedule. I can set when I see clients. However, once I have a client booked, I can't just not see that client if I'm low energy, low mood, um, tired. I mean, obviously, if I really hit the wall, I'm not talking about that, but I'm just talking the general kind of everyday fluctuations that we have. Um, and so for me, I definitely have had those days where I'm like, God, I don't want to see clients. I really don't. I'm just, ugh. Not because of them. I mean, clients are lovely, but more kind of for myself. And, I have to be like, if I canceled on those clients every time that happened, I wouldn't have a practice. So those are non-negotiables. However, I do have a lot of kind of flexibility and leeway within those. So it's like, if I'm not actively seeing a client, maybe I'm not working on paperwork or admin or social media or networking or stuff like that. Maybe I'm just going to take that time to, go for a walk or take a nap or read something or do something different than what was originally planned. What does that mean? What does that look like? Right. So I have my, non-negotiables. Like I must see these people when they're booked. But outside of that, having that flexibility, right? And there's nothing wrong with having a schedule, but it's also understanding that the schedule doesn't have to dictate your life, right? So, kind of just trying to ask yourself, is this sustainable for my life? Not other people, right? Nobody else, right? Lots of people have systems and great, it works for you. That's fantastic. Um, your system may change, it may not. There's different ways to look at it. But one of the big things is, is this sustainable for me, for my life, for where I am? And it doesn't have to mean that is this sustainable in the terms of like, oh, this is the thing that I'm going to do forever. Like with me, with working out, I've changed how I work out a lot. I've worked out at the gym. I worked out with an online trainer. I trained for, my marathon. I, went to a kickboxing gym. I worked out in the gym again, but with a physical trainer at this time. Now I'm working out at home. I just got a punching bag. So I'm always kind of switching things up, but I'm still working out. Right. So it's not about like, oh, I've developed a system, I'm going to stick with it forever. Because if you do, great. But for a lot of us, we really struggle with that. So what does that look like? Right. Is this sustainable for me? It's different than being like, this has to be sustainable forever. Right. How do you measure success? What does that look like? Right. Because really it's about returning, it's about coming back. It's not maintaining perfect, it's not maintaining perfectly. It's not, the expectation of like, oh, I'm always gonna be able to do this. It's also not taking like a month off and then coming back and then like, oh, taking another couple of months off and coming back. I mean, yeah, if you come back, that's great. But it's how can I, have that hiccup or, that, time when I stop doing something and kind of get back on, relatively quickly. In terms of sobriety, it's like, oh, I, fell off the wagon. Well, hop back on. Don't, chop the wagon down and burn it for firewood, right? Just because you, kind of fell off the wagon doesn't mean that you can't hop back on. I really hate the idea of like, oh, I have a year of sobriety under my belt and I, I relapsed. And so now, I'm back at square one. No, you're not. No, you're not. You had a year of sobriety under your belt. That is not nothing. There's a lot that you learn from that. And there's some things that you learn from relapsing, and that's okay. How do I take that and apply it moving forward? Right? So just kind of wrap up. Being inconsistently consistent is still being consistent. Right? Doesn't matter when you do it. Doesn't matter when you start, whether it's January, February, June, August, middle of the week, who cares? Right? You're not behind. You're human. Right? So just I want you to think of, well, what is something that I can do that I can implement in my life? One thing where I can try and work on being inconsistently consistent. What would that look like? What would that mean? So please leave a comment, say something in our multiple social medias. Would love to hear from you. What is one thing that you can do to be consistently or inconsistently consistent? Let me watch.